Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to find out if a company is just swimming or really acing it. Today we're diving into a filing from OneWater Marine Incorporated. And let me tell you, this isn't just a regular update, it is more like a little peek under the hood to see what is really going on at this boat retailer. Make sure you are subscribed because we break down these kinds of documents so you don't have to. And if you want to chat about these filings in real time, join our Discord community. The link is in the description below. So what is the big deal here? It seems like OneWater Marine Incorporated, or 1W as they're known on the NASDAQ, dropped an investor presentation on the 8th of December 2025. Now, instead of a super dry technical financial report, this filing is mostly about that presentation. Think of it as the company giving investors a more visual and digestible way to see their performance and plans. It's like getting the Cliff's Notes for their business. This is a company that deals in boats, and not just any boats, but pretty much all kinds. From yachts to fishing boats, they seem to have a wide range. They operate in Delaware, which is a common place for companies to incorporate, and their headquarters are in Beaufort, Georgia. When we're looking at filings like this, we're always asking ourselves, is this company thriving, just surviving? Or maybe even heading for rough waters. Their class of common stock is traded on the NASDAQ under the symbol 1W, that is the main ticker we follow. When a company puts out an investor presentation, it is usually to highlight good news or to explain why things might not be going as well as planned. It is their way of managing expectations and showing their story to the world. This part of the filing is mainly about what they call Regulation FD, which is all about fair disclosure. Basically, when a company releases important information, they have to make sure everyone gets it at the same time. So by filing this presentation, they're making sure that whatever they're saying to investors in that presentation is now publicly available. They're a bit careful here, saying the information won't be deemed officially filed in some parts, meaning it's more for informational purposes, and doesn't carry the same legal weight as a full financial statement in certain contexts. But it still tells us what they want us to know. The real juicy part, the investor presentation itself, is what they're calling Exhibit 99.1. This is where the actual numbers and the story behind the numbers live. Unfortunately, the actual presentation isn't embedded in this particular document, so we can't analyze specific graphs or charts directly from here. However, we can infer what kind of information would be in a typical investor presentation for a company like OneWater Marine Incorporated. What would be in this presentation? Likely a look at their sales performance over the last quarter or year, maybe showing how many boats they've sold and what kind. They'd probably talk about their revenue, which is the total money they've brought in. They might also showcase their profits or earnings, which is what's left after they pay all their bills. They could be highlighting growth in certain markets or with specific boat brands, or perhaps ways they're cutting costs to improve their bottom line. For a company like OneWater Marine, I'd expect them to be sharing details about their dealership network, maybe showing how many locations they have and how well each is performing. They might also discuss their service and parts business, as that is often a profitable area for dealers. If there are any new acquisitions or partnerships, that would certainly be a highlight. And of course, they'll probably touch upon their strategy for the future, what they plan to do to sell more boats and make more money. Let's think about the boating industry. It is cyclical, meaning it goes up and down with the economy. When people feel secure about their finances, they tend to spend more on luxury items like boats. When times are tough, boats are often one of the first things people cut back on. So, an investor presentation would likely explain how OneWater Marine is navigating these economic ups and downs, perhaps by focusing on different customer segments or offering financing options. Now, without the actual presentation, we're piecing things together, but the very fact that they are issuing this on the 8th of December, 2025 implies they are keeping investors informed and likely want to put their best foot forward. They might be reinforcing their strategy, reassuring investors about current market conditions, or setting the stage for future growth. Given we are past the date of the report, we can speculate about the actual performance they presented. If it was positive, they'd show strong sales growth. For instance, a significant increase in revenue, say 15% or more, would mean they sold a lot more boats compared to the same period last year. A rise in net income, perhaps by 10%, would indicate they are not only selling more, but also keeping a larger portion of that money as profit. On the flip side, if the presentation hinted at challenges, we might see a mention of flat or declining sales or lower profit margins. This could be due to increased competition, rising manufacturing costs for boats, or a slowdown in consumer spending, for instance. If their revenue growth was only 2%, that's barely keeping up with inflation and could signal market saturation or weakening demand. If their profit margins are shrinking, it means they're having to spend more to make each dollar, which is never a good sign. This is signed by Jack Ezzell, the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer. This is the person officially responsible for the company's operations and its finances, giving us reassurance that a high-level executive has reviewed and approved this report and its accompanying presentation. It signifies the company is formally acknowledging this information. Looking at a company like OneWater Marine Incorporated, we have to consider their industry. The marine industry is heavily influenced by consumer confidence and economic conditions. People buy boats when they feel financially secure and have disposable income. This means that any economic downturn can hit these companies hard. However, if they've managed to maintain or grow their sales and profits during what might be challenging economic times, that's a strong indicator of good management and a resilient business model. They might be doing this by focusing on customer loyalty, expanding into new geographical areas, or diversifying their product offerings. Now, let's think about what could be in the presentation that is particularly interesting. If they're talking about market share and they show they're gaining it, that is a big win. It means they're outperforming their competitors. If they talk about a new strategy, like focusing on pre-owned boat sales or expanding their service centers, we'd want to see if that's already showing up in their numbers. For example, if they mention investing in service and parts, we'd look for an increase in revenue from that segment. If we had the actual numbers here, I'd be looking for trends. Are their revenues growing year after year? Are their profits increasing at a similar or even faster rate? What about their debt? Companies often use debt to finance their operations and growth, but too much debt can be a risk, especially if sales start to decline. Wednesday want to see if their debt levels are manageable in relation to their earnings. For example, if the presentation showed revenue growing by 20% and profits growing by 25%, that's fantastic. It suggests they're not only selling more, but also becoming more efficient. However, if revenue grew by 5% and profits stayed flat or decreased, that would be a cause for concern, as it implies rising costs are eating into their earnings. And what about risks? Every company has them. For OneWater Marine, it could be things like rising interest rates impacting boat financing, supply chain disruptions affecting the availability of new boats, or even severe weather events that could damage inventory or deter customers. A good investor presentation will acknowledge these risks and explain how the company plans to mitigate them. So, what is my take on OneWater Marine based on this filing, even without the full presentation? The fact that they are actively communicating with investors through an updated presentation in December 2025 suggests they are engaged and want to keep the market informed. This in itself is a positive sign of transparency. The critical factor, however, lies in the actual content of that presentation. If it showcases strong sales, healthy profit margins, and a clear executable strategy for future growth, then OneWater Marine is likely on solid ground. They would be demonstrating an ability to navigate the complexities of the marine industry and consumer spending patterns. Conversely, if the presentation signals stagnation, declining profitability, or an inability to adapt to market challenges, then investors should be wary. The company's direction would then be questionable, and its ability to generate consistent returns could be at risk. We would need to see if they are proactively addressing any emerging threats or simply reacting to them. Ultimately, the success of OneWater Marine will hinge on its ability to sell boats consistently, manage its costs effectively, and adapt to the ever-changing economic landscape. The story here is about how well they are doing that, and this investor presentation is their latest attempt to tell that story to the world. Alright, that is our deep dive into what this OneWater Marine Incorporated filing tells us. What are your thoughts on the company's strategy and its future prospects based on what we discussed? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful and want more insights like this, please hit that like button and subscribe to Corporate Decoder. And don't forget to join our Discord community for more discussions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.